Yo, what is going on, guys? It is We Reacts here, and today we're going to be reacting to Who Was Gilgamesh. Last time, if you saw my other Gilgamesh video, we reacted to How Strong Was Gilgamesh, and this is Power X1. But this time we're asked, who is he? And the first hero and fate's strongest servant. I want to give a big shout out to the fate community. Well, my little small fate community that we have here. I've heard people in the fake community can be toxic. I've had like one toxic guy. Well, actually two. I remember two toxic guys. And it wasn't about nothing major, but it was just like, oh man, you listening? Just some bitch and shit. But you guys have, no matter what I've said or what I was confused on, you guys have always explained it to me carefully. If you haven't seen my last video, you don't have to watch it, but I want you to look at the comments. Go look at all these helpful ass people telling me things. And I actually, what I'm glad you guys did tell me is, supposedly, right? Yeah, supposedly, Gilgamesh isn't even the strongest. There's people like, I think one person said there's like 30 people above him, and out of those 30, he's at the bottom. Which doesn't make sense because, okay, look, if he has every noble phantasm, and there's 30 people above him with noble phantasms, doesn't he have them? And he just use their noble phantasms from the treasure of Babylonia and just fucking counter their shit? I don't know. But guess who does? You guys. And you've been very fucking helpful. So, if you have an answer to that question, leave it down in the description below. And this is 14 minutes, so we're going to have a lot more fucking questions. And I want you guys to answer all of those as well. And as always, thank you for doing that. And with all that being said, the original video will be down in the description below. If they have any socials, they'll be down in the description below as well. That being said, let's just get right into today's video.
But for someone who's titled the King of Heroes and is widely believed to be the strongest heroic spirit in the Fate universe, I sure don't know. I don't know about you, but for someone who's titled the King of Heroes and is widely believed to be the strongest heroic spirit in the Fate universe, I sure don't know a whole lot about him. Like, we all know the character Gilgamesh, but unlike Saber or Ryder, who are based off of more widely popular historical figures, I knew nothing of this so-called oldest king while watching any of the Fate series. So this got me wondering, who exactly is this arrogant servant that likes to place himself at what's essentially the pinnacle of human existence, and why the fuck is he so much powerful than everyone else? Well, let's take a look at who this walking embodiment of pride was back when he was alive, and see what exactly made him the King of Heroes. Gilgamesh is the legendary figure who can be found as the focus in what's considered to be the world's oldest piece of fictional literature. A mythic poem titled the Epic of Gilgamesh, which dates all the way back to the year 2100 BC. It's titled the Epic.
That's a poem? Who can even read that? There's kind of some letters in it, but I can't read that. Well, I'm not meant to read it because I'm not fucking from there. That really makes you think about all the fucking how they used to communicate back in the day. I knew Egyptians like write on tablets and shit like that. Damn.
Epic of Gilgamesh, which dates all the way back to the year 2100 BC. It's a 4,000-year-old story that just so happens to grant Gilgamesh yet another title as history's first known hero. His adventures and accomplishments as the absolute ruling entity of Uruk are certainly nothing to scoff at, but it's his quest for immortality and what he learned from it that makes this epic so memorable. Let's set the stage. The year is around 2800 BC, and the Age of Gods is on the brink of separation due to their continually deteriorating state from the invasion of Safar. You see, the gods used to walk the earth as fate from the invasion of Safar.
What the fuck is this and why are her hands so big? Like cubes in? One thing I do gotta commend Fate on, I've seen like a lot of Fate characters. They all have like very, I can't get over how big them fucking hands is. They usually have like very unique designs that you don't really see anywhere else.
You see, the gods used to walk the earth as physical manifestations of nature itself, which allowed them to rule the earth and its inhabitants. But after Safar nearly destroyed the entire planet along with numerous gods, The rest of them began to lose their physical forms and could only manifest themselves on Earth by possessing compatible humans. The gods eventually came to the conclusion that their time remaining on Earth was very limited. To counter their diminishing presence, they came up with a plan to create a keystone that would act as the bridge between the fading gods and the emerging humans. Gilgamesh was that keystone. It was around the year 2600 BC that Gilgamesh was born as a demigod between the human king of Uruk and the goddess Ninsun. At the time, Uruk was the capital city of ancient Mesopotamia, the first civilization to be created on Earth since the beginning of mankind. So being born as 2/3 god and 1/3 human into a ruling position—
Fuck you. Okay? Fuck you. How many times is you motherfuckers gonna use this goddamn clip when you talking about Gilgamesh? I'm pretty sure Gilgamesh has been in a lot of fates, or I think you actually answered the question. It's only been like, you got other clips, nigga. Stop using this goddamn clip, okay? He lost! Okay? God damn! Every time I see anything Gilgamesh, I was bringing up this goddamn berserker clip. God damn, it's rubbing in my face.
First cities to have ever existed is definitely a nice position to be in, but the gods definitely did not intend for Gilgamesh to turn out the way that he did.
Leave me alone.
Rather than being this neutral entity that would observe humanity from both the perspective of a god and a human, he instead became this figure of absolute authority. You see, Gilgamesh was born with the knowledge that he was neither fully god nor human, and as such, he placed himself as this superior being over all those that he ruled. This led to him becoming this oppressive tyrant of a king who historically was recorded as either subjecting his people to forced labor or sexually oppressing them. That's the subtle way of putting it. I'm actually downplaying it a lot here because just mentioning the atrocities he committed would probably lead to instant demonetization, which leads me to wonder how he even became a hero in the first place. But moving on. The gods weren't quite satisfied by the fact that this supposed keystone would grow up to become such a tyrannical king who wouldn't even submit to the ones that created him. So the king of gods Anu and the goddess of creation Aruru mold a piece of earth into this wild man monster named Enkutu and give it life, but not a
Recognize the name. You guys were telling me that he is supposedly stronger than Gilgamesh, and that I think you said like Gilgamesh can use him or some shit like that with like some chains or some shit. I think those golden chains that he used to bind Berserker with, fuck him for doing that. But I think the gold chains that he can bind people with and shit, aren't they called Enkidu? I think. Listen, my fate knowledge is still lacking, but I think someone wrote in my last video that they said he can use those chains and they're called Inky. I think.
Soul. Its purpose of existence was to act as the chains of heaven and put Gilgamesh back into his place as an observer of the gods by binding him. Though since Enkidu didn't have a soul himself, he had no sense of rational thought, so he couldn't take action upon Gilgamesh until he gained enough wisdom and reason to do so. This was made possible by sleeping with a divine harlot that was sent by the gods themselves, but that's more Enkidu's story than Gilgamesh's. So after molding itself into a rational being, Enkidu goes to carry out its mission. The first time that it witnesses Gilgamesh, though, he was still a child that hadn't completely put humanity under his foot. So at first, Enkidu was questioning the god's reasoning for having it met out punishment to this seemingly just ruler. Surely refusing to submit to the gods as a child does not warrant the type of divine punishment that the gods were trying to deal. At least that's what Enkidu thought. But as he watched Gil grow, he witnessed the foresight the gods had to see Gil become this over-oppressive tyrant of a king. When the right time finally came,
in my opinion, this is off topic by the way, but I like Gilgamesh hair like that. Like the back there, instead of when it's down and kind of weird.
Enkidu presented himself in front of Gil outside the temple of Uruk and stated that punishment had to be dealt for his lack of respect towards the gods and the oppression that he dealt to his people. Obviously, Gil, still being full of arrogance, didn't just accept the words of some clay humanoid that was reprimanding him. No, instead they fought each other in a battle that lasted for days on end. This would be the first time in Gilgamesh's life that he would encounter someone of equal strength. So Gilgamesh had no choice but to respond in equal force by using his Gate of Babylon for the first time. Initially, he was to use the treasures that he had carefully stored. But after some time, he came to the realization that he was actually enjoying himself. You see, Gilgamesh lived a very lonely life. His unopposed power led him to a life of isolation, and this served as a factor in the duress that he had towards the people that he ruled.
So kind of like One Punch Man. Well, not isolation, but got bored with his power so no one could check him.
But after coming across Enkidu, someone who was worthy of being in his presence, even to fight him, he stopped caring for the treasures that he had collected and started emptying the vault until there wasn't even a single weapon left to use. Though by that time, Enkidu was reduced to almost only 10% of the clay that he had started with. But rather than simply eliminating the first true opponent that he ever had, Gilgamesh respected Enkidu as an equal, and instead became friends with it. Now, I don't think you need me to tell you, but obviously the Gate of Babylon aspect is a fate-altered component of Gilgamesh's epic. Though everything up to now has been similar, creating a portal that has direct access to his vault of weapons that then fires them at Mach 10 isn't something that's historically accurate. But moving on, Gil and Enkidu, who are now best buds, set their sights towards the guardian of the cedar forest and the beast of the gods, Humbaba.
What? Humbaba?
The two heroes traverse 7 mountains to get to the cedar forest, where once there, they go deep within until they encounter the divine beast. Though Gilgamesh is at first startled by the demigod guardian, he prays to the sun god, who in return aids Gil by blinding the beast. Humbaba begs to be spared, but is mercilessly decapitated anyways. To make things even worse, in the Nasuverse, although Humbaba was this monstrous creature, it was said to possess the innocent heart of a young girl, one who had also once been friends with Enkidu. It even wore a crown of flowers that Enkidu made from a garden that it had planted just for her. It's at this point that Enkidu is confused by Gil's actions. It's unsure as to why Gilgamesh would go to such great lengths to perform such a dangerous task that wasn't even requested by the gods. Gil explains that it's all to protect Uruk, which confuses Enkidu even more since it was not too long ago that Gil was oppressing the very people that he was now trying to protect. Gil explains his reasoning, and after hearing it, Enkidu pledges loyalty as a tool to help Gil reach his goals. Though this next part may be shocking because Gil didn't accept its pledge, stating that it was his friend and not just a tool. After this, their adventures together resulted in Gil becoming the greatest and richest king on Earth. Even the gods—
What the fuck is that? What?
Adventures together resulted in Gil becoming the greatest and richest king
Obligatory gender bent Gilgamesh. Okay.
on Earth. Even the gods themselves had to acknowledge the power that Gil had accumulated. One goddess in particular, who goes by the name of Ishtar, actually fell in love.
Yeah, I just saw Rin on the corner over there. Isn't? Oh, yeah. So is Rin? No. No, that's not Rin. It's. Well, no, didn't. No, that can't be right because there's no way. She's just a human. There's no way she can live that long. I was finna say, because we saw Ren in that one video I watched, right? And then then they also said that the gods, since they were like weak or some shit, or they were fading away, they possessed compatible humans. So I was gonna say, did they possess Ren? But that can't be right. Yeah, that can't be right. Maybe she's just like probably just a different character that fucking fate reusing fucking character models. My god.
Love with Gil and proposed marriage. I know, it's heartbreaking. But don't worry, because Gil actually turned down this goddess of fertility's proposal due to her past as being, well, a thought. Ishtar was very well known for mistreating her past lovers by being unfaithful and cruel, and Gilgamesh just didn't want any of it, so he sent her away. Ishtar, feeling that she had just become insulted, and being the yandere that she is, went to her father Anu, the supreme god, and requested to unleash the Bull of Heaven onto Uruk. The Bull of Heaven was the greatest divine beast that existed at the time, and it was used to get revenge on Gil for rejecting her. It had reigned terror on Earth for 7 whole years before Gilgamesh and Enkidu were able to defeat it using the very chains of heaven that were meant to bind Gil. This had just
all of that bullshit just because you. Oh shit! I spit it. Disgusting. All of that because you got rejected. Childish ass nigga.
Angered Ishtar more, and she demanded that Enkidu be put to death for killing the divine beast. The gods also agreed, and it wasn't very long after that Enkidu slowly started to decay and lose his form. As it piece by piece returned to the clay that it was molded from, Gilgamesh stayed by its side. Enkidu told him not to grieve because it considered itself nothing more than just a treasure from Gil's collection. But Gilgamesh denied this claim and said that it does have its own worth, a worth that nothing else in the world can or will ever have. Gil declared that Enkidu will stay as his one and only friend forever, so that the worth that it has right now will never change. I'm sure it was actually at this point that Gil discovered the true power of friendship.
The true power of friendship. Speaking of which, I don't know if they're gonna explain it. I hate when I do. I hate when I ask a question. They explain it like right fucking after. But did Ishtar get like no punishment for that? I can understand. He feels that he's in the right, and the other gods are in the right. But surely she got some type of punishment for doing some dumb shit like that. Right? There's no way she can just do that whenever she feels like it.
But shortly after, Enkidu returned to clay and Gilgamesh grieved for his lost friend. It's at this point that he also reaches a kind of existential midlife crisis. Seeing his closest friend die greatly changed his perspective of life. Up until now, all he did was collect treasures, sleep with women, and fight beasts to protect Uruk. But now, Gil had a sense of his own mortality. He realized that death was slowly creeping up and there was nothing that he could do about it. It wasn't the thought of dying that scared him as much as it was the thought of not being able to complete his duty as the overseer of humanity. The thought of someone such as himself being unable to fulfill the very reason for his existence played a heavy toll on him. So much so that he fell into a bit of depression. Gilgamesh needed to find a way to escape death's grasp, and he needed to do it before his time ran out. So he became obsessed with a treasure that he had intended on collecting for his vault, but just later on in life. It was called the Herb of Immortality, a spirit herb that grants the user what's essentially eternal life by returning them to their youth. This was the tool that Gil needed in order to fully complete his mission. So like a man possessed, he left for the underworld in search of a sage who was pretty much the Mesopotamian version of Noah, a sage that had lived for many years, much longer than that of a normal human. So if anyone knew the key to immortality, it would be him. Their journey was long and spanned several years, all the while Gil groveled in the despair of his limited time on Earth. After decades of wandering, he finally reached the underworld and met the sage, though the form of immortality that the sage offered was not what Gil had in mind. This sage had become partially one with nature. He had joined the rank of the gods by becoming half plant and foregoing his human desires. Once again, Gil wanted none of this, and was about to turn around and head back to Uruk when the sage, who had just had his entire existence denied in a single moment, revealed a different way of obtaining immortality. He stated that there was an herb that granted perpetual youth, and it could be found deep underwater. So Gil sets off to claim the herb for himself, and sure enough, he does. Now, for the first time in his life, Gilgamesh feels a sense of pride and accomplishment. He will now be able to avenge his only friend's death by beating death itself. Gilgamesh, with his depression now gone, returns to his senses, and along with it comes some of his ego. Before returning to his kingdom, he feels he must first look like a king. He decides to stop and clean himself at a nearby spring. He places the herb down and goes and rests in the water. While Gil was in this state of pure euphoria for obtaining the world's greatest treasure, a nearby snake had gained a whiff of the herb. It slithers towards the plant, and as any animal would, takes the easy meal and eats it. By the time Gilgamesh had realized what was going on, it was already too late. The herb was gone, and the snake had shed its skin, proving the effects of the Herb of Immortality. So you'd think that after seeing this, Gil would just go absolutely insane for losing his most valuable treasure. But instead, he just laughed it off. Although he didn't gain any material rewards from his journey, he did learn something. His brief sense of accomplishment and joy that had vanished just as quickly as he obtained it made him realize the full extent of his humanity and the limitations that come with it. It was at this point that Gilgamesh became truly
Imagine he did all that bullshit just for a snake to steal it. Was he? What was he supposed to do? Bathe inside the herb or some shit, like soak in it? Or was he supposed to like eat it? Because the snake did eat it and he got it. So I'm guessing he was supposed to eat it.
Human, maturing through an experience that he had never had the chance of experiencing before. Gilgamesh returns to Uruk empty-handed and rules his people in a much more tame manner until he finally passes away on his own terms. If you're wondering why he didn't just go back and get more of the herb, well, he did, but just for the sake of completing his collection. He doesn't consume the herb though because he knows now that it's not himself that should be remembered forever, but rather his accomplishments that should become immortal, and that's exactly what happened. Now, I'm sure there's many things that are to be learned from this epic, like how you should accept your limitations as a human, and how it's your actions that define your legacy and whatnot. But I think what really matters is the fact that he did succeed in immortalizing his existence into history as the world's first hero. Now, keep in mind that this version of Gil's story relates mostly to the Nasuverse, but does also combine some historical elements just to make it as coherent of a story as possible. The historical version obviously has some key differences in the way that certain events happen, like Enkidu taunting Ishtar with the severed leg of the Bull of Heaven, or Gil immediately failing the test to see if he was worthy of gaining the knowledge to the secret of immortality. So if you want to know the full historical version of the Epic of Gilgamesh, there are plenty of other higher quality videos that showcase that entire story. Anyway, this is just part 1 of Gilgamesh's profile. So now that his lore's done, next video we can look closer into his Gate of Babylon and everything else that comes with it. But as always, thank you so much for watching.
I've seen that video. We're all caught up on Gilgamesh. Also, I do want to, as I was watching this video, I do want to apologize. I was thinking in my head for the moment. And I was just sitting here like, I'm not doing any reaction whatsoever. Like, I'm not pausing the video, I'm not doing anything like that. But at the same time, I feel as if I'm just soaking in the information, I feel as if it's a more real reaction. I do like to have input. I don't like to sit just looking at something all day. I do want to have input like that. But I'm not gonna force myself to come up with something, because then I'll feel like it's not genuine. But I did enjoy this video, and to whoever suggested this, thank you. Thank you for watching my videos, and thank you for leaving a comment on the video. Sorry if you didn't get the reaction you thought you were going to get, but at the same time, this was a very good video. And it really explained a lot of shit about Gilgamesh for me. And I actually hated him a lot, mainly because of the whole Berserker boy. But in my opinion, if I give him a rating 1 out of 10 now, I give him a 6. I give him a 6. He used to be a 1. Yeah, a 1 on my opinion. He's a 6. After hearing all this shit. But yeah, this was an informative video. Also, I did see your guys' reaction request of Emia. Emia. I think it's Emia. You wanted me to, Andy News has a video about Emia, whoever that is. And you guys also have a video of Lancer, my boy. So yeah, I'm gonna watch both of those as well. I really like these Andy News videos. If they have like any other videos besides Fate videos, you can recommend more Fate videos, guys. I'm not shying away from Fate videos. If you have more Fate characters that you think I'd be interested in, leave them down. Like leave them in the description below. Leave in the comment section below, and I'll watch them. I have no problem with that. Leave them down below, and also leave other Andy News videos that you want me to react to. And if you have any other videos besides Fate, besides AMV, it can be a memes video. It can be a video you made, something, anything. I'll react to it. Besides like actual mainstream music videos, I just don't fuck with that shit. But anything else, leave it down there. But all that being said, guys, I thank you for being patient with me, and I thank you for coming to watch this long video, even though I really just sat here looking at the thing for most of the time. And yeah, but all that being said, thank you for watching my video, and peace.